She inherited a cabin shaped like an ancient pyramid half buried in the Montana snow, expecting nothing but busted heaters and a mountain of back taxes. But what she found sealed inside its obsidian black walls was worth $250 million and carried a secret so explosive it would soon put crosshairs on her and her babies. Before we dive into this wild ride, smash that subscribe button, because tomorrow's story is gonna leave you speechless. The letter slid under the door on a bitter Tuesday in March, pushed into Keisha Thompson's cramped Section 8 apartment on the north side of Copper Falls, Montana. She almost kicked it aside with the rest of the final notices. Electricity shut-off warnings, child support intercepts, and racist notes from the landlord were the only mail she ever got these days. But this envelope felt different, thick, cream-colored stock that screamed money. Return address read Hastings and Burke, attorneys at law, Helena, Montana. Keisha stood over the kitchen sink, still rocking her fast food uniform, grease and bleach fighting for space on her skin after pulling a double shift at the chicken joint and then cleaning offices till 2 a.m. just to keep formula on the table. Behind her, 8-year-old Aaliyah sat cross-legged on the floor coloring a picture of a big warm house with a Christmas tree in the window, while 4-year-old Malik banged a plastic truck against the wall. The irony hit Keisha like a slap. They'd just been handed a 30-day eviction notice. In 4 weeks her black babies would be homeless in Montana winter, no chimney, no nothing. She sliced the envelope open with the same rusty butter knife she used for everything. Hands still smelling like fryer oil and pine sol. The letter matched the envelope, fancy cream paper, words typed like they cost extra. Dear Ms. Thompson, we are writing to inform you of an inheritance from your great-aunt Adelaide Du Bois, who passed peacefully on February 14th of this year. As her sole remaining blood relative, you are the beneficiary of her entire estate, including a private property situated deep in the Bitterroot Mountains. We kindly request your presence at our offices at your earliest convenience to review the assets and sign the necessary documents. Keisha read it 4 times before the words stopped swimming. Adelaide Du Bois. The name tugged at something buried deep, like an old gospel hymn she hadn't heard since her grandma's funeral. Her mama had whispered about a rich, mysterious aunt once or twice before the cancer took her, but family had scattered like leaves after redlining, jail, and graves nobody could afford. Mommy, what's that? Aaliyah asked, peering up with those big brown eyes. Just grown folk business, baby girl, Keisha lied, folding the letter like it was made of gold. That night, after both kids finally crashed on the pull-out couch, Keisha fired up the cracked laptop she'd bought off her cousin for $40 and searched Adelaide Du Bois, Montana. Almost nothing came back. A couple of old immigration records, one line in a 1948 ship manifest, and an obituary shorter than a tweet, born Martinique 1923, arrived New York 1948, died Copper Falls, Montana, age 102. No children. No funeral. No trace. The law office sat 3 hours north. Missing work wasn't an option, rent was already 2 months late and her manager had made it clear another absence meant her badge was gone. But eviction was a guillotine blade hovering over her kids' heads. If this inheritance was even a quarter acre she could flip, maybe, just maybe, she could keep her family off the street. She begged her night shift supervisor for the ancient suburban Saturday morning, promised to fill the tank on the way back. Aaliyah and Malik piled in, Aaliyah clutching her coloring book, Malik already asking 100 questions about snow monsters. Keisha forced a smile. March in Montana don't play, the clouds hung low and heavy like God himself was holding his breath. The law office was a red brick building squeezed between a coffee shop that never served her kind fast enough and a bookstore she couldn't afford to walk into. A silver-haired white man in a thick wool sweater and wire-rimmed glasses greeted them at the door, smiling like he actually meant it. Ms. Thompson, thank you for making the trip. And who are these beautiful young people? My daughter Aaliyah and my son Malik. Well, Aaliyah, Malik, I've got brand new coloring books and the good crayons in the waiting room if you'll want to hang out for a minute. Your mama and I gotta handle some grown-up paperwork real quick." Aaliyah grinned and skipped off with Malik toddling behind her, clutching a fresh box of Crayolas like it was Christmas. Keisha followed Mr. Burke into his office. It smelled like old leather, coffee, and that faint dusty scent only rich folks' books seem to have. He motioned to the chair across from his big oak desk. "I'll cut straight to it, Ms. Thompson," he said, easing into his seat. "Miss Adelaide Du Bois was the most private client I ever had. I handled her affairs for 23 years and only laid eyes on her maybe 10 of those. Lived alone, no visitors I ever heard of, and left ironclad instructions about what happens when she's gone." He flipped open a thick folder. "The property sits 47 miles northwest of Helena, down a private road off Highway 12. Extremely remote. And the structure itself, well, it's one of a kind." Keisha leaned in. "One of a kind how?" Mr. Burke gave a small, mysterious smile. "Pictures don't do it justice, but they're a start." He slid a glossy photograph across the desk. Keisha's breath caught in her throat. Rising out of a sea of untouched snow was a sleek, angular cabin built in the perfect shape of an Egyptian pyramid, black glass panels forming the 4 sloping sides, meeting at a sharp, crystalline apex that caught the weak winter sun like a diamond. Gold light poured from narrow, vertical windows that ran floor to ceiling along each edge, making the whole thing look like some ancient tomb teleported into the Montana wilderness. "It's a pyramid," Keisha whispered, tracing the edges with her finger. "Built in 1953, Mr. Burke confirmed. Miss Du Bois designed it herself, brought in specialty masons from out of state, paid in cash. Obsidian cladding, heated floors, the works. And now it belongs to you, along with 40 acres of prime mountain land. Taxes paid in perpetuity, titles clean, no liens." Keisha's heart hammered. "And money? Is there anything else?" "There's a maintenance trust, $15,000 cash liquid right now, plus an account that replenishes annually for upkeep and property taxes." $15,000. To Keisha, who'd been choosing between diapers and the light bill for years, that sounded like $1 million. "But there is one condition," he continued, voice dropping. "You must visit the property within 30 days of this notification and decide whether to accept or reject the inheritance. If you reject it, the entire estate goes to the National Historic Preservation Trust." Keisha almost laughed. Why on earth would anybody say no to a whole pyramid in the mountains? Mr. Burke paused. "No cell service. 20 miles to the nearest neighbor. Winters that'll bury a semi-truck." And Miss Du Bois was particular about how the structure is maintained. "Some folks walk in, feel the isolation, and walk right back out." Keisha was already shaking her head. "Give me the keys." He handed over a heavy velvet pouch containing 3 ancient-looking brass keys and a hand-sketched map. "I'd go soon," he warned. "Forecast says a big storm's rolling in by the weekend." That night, after the kids were asleep on their shared mattress, Keisha spread the map across the wobbly kitchen table under the flickering fluorescent light. 12 miles of unplowed private road snaking up through dense pine, ending at a tiny pyramid symbol drawn in red ink. She made her list: jumper cables, shovel, kitty litter for traction, thermos of soup, blankets, candles, extra coats, Malik's inhaler, Aaliyah's EpiPen, the .38 she kept hidden in her sock drawer. Montana backcountry wasn't playing. 3 days later, Sunday, her day off, she loaded the borrowed Suburban until it sagged. Aaliyah and Malik buckled in the back, wide-eyed and bundled like little marshmallows. The sky hung the color of a bruised nickel, snow already swirling. An hour outside Copper Falls the flakes turned fat and serious, plastering the windshield. The turnoff was almost invisible, just a gap in the trees and a rusted metal sign swinging in the wind, "Private, no trespassing." Keisha's stomach did a flip as she eased onto the narrow track. Snow had already erased most of the ruts, only faint depressions showed anyone had ever come this way. She clicked the Suburban into follow, the transfer case growling like an angry bear, and they started climbing. Aliyah pressed her face to the window. "Mommy, it's like Narnia back here." Malik whispered, "Are we almost at the castle?" Keisha gripped the wheel tighter, flakes racing toward them like a million tiny ghosts. "Almost, babies," she said, voice steady even though her heart was in her throat. "We almost there. Mommy, it feel like we driving a forever back here." "I know, baby girl, but we almost home." That was a straight lie. The 12-mile private road took damn near 70 minutes, the Suburban fishtailing, tires spinning, Keisha praying out loud every time they slid toward a drop-off. Her knuckles stayed ghost white on the wheel. Then, like God himself parted the pines, the trees fell away. There it was. Rising out of a perfect circle of untouched snow stood the pyramid cabin, black glass sides gleaming wet even under the dull March sky. For razor-sharp edges slanted up to a crystal cap that blazed with trapped sunlight, throwing gold beams across the snow like some pharaoh's beacon dropped in the middle of Montana. Aliyah's mouth fell open. "Mommy, it's a real pyramid. Like in my Egypt book at school." Malik just pointed, eyes big as quarters. "Big triangle house." Keisha couldn't even answer. She eased the truck into the clearing and killed the engine. Silence rushed in, thick as the snow. How does one woman build something this wild out here and never tell a soul? Aliyah was already fumbling with her seatbelt. "Can we go in, please, please, please?" "Hold your horses," Keisha said, grabbing the keys and the heavy mag light. "Stay right behind me, both of y'all." The entrance was a massive triangular door of dark, ancient wood carved with hieroglyph-looking symbols and swirling African patterns that made Keisha's skin prickle. She tried key after key until the third one turned with a deep, satisfying thunk. The door swung in slow and silent, like it had been waiting. Inside wasn't cold like she expected, it was cool, but breathable. The foyer soared up all four sloping walls to the glass apex 30 feet above, light pouring down in golden shafts. The floor was polished black marble inlaid with gold that formed a giant anchorite under their feet. "Mommy, it's warm in here," Malik yelled, voice echoing. In the center of the foyer sat a single round ebony table. On it, one object, an onyx and gold miniature pyramid, about the size of a lunchbox, glowing faintly from within. A cream envelope leaned against it. Keisha's fingers shook as she opened it. The handwriting was elegant, old-world, beautiful. "Welcome home, Keisha. I wish I could have held you when you were small. There is more here than walls and windows. Look closely. Listen. The house knows its blood. When you are ready, it will open everything to you. Trust it. Trust yourself. Your great-aunt Adelaide." Aliyah read over her shoulder, whispering the words. "Mommy, what secrets?" "I don't know yet, baby." Keisha folded the letter like it was scripture. They explored the first level together, modern kitchen with stainless everything hidden behind carved wooden panels, a living room big enough for a choir, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves packed with leather volumes in French, Arabic, Yoruba, and English. Everything spotless, like a cleaning crew had come yesterday. Up the floating glass staircase to the second floor, for bedrooms, each one a vibe. One painted like a starry midnight sky, another sunny and yellow with a mural of the motherland, another with bunk beds already made up like somebody knew 2 kids were coming. Aliyah claimed the starry one instantly. "Mommy, can this be my room forever?" Keisha's throat got tight. "We'll see, baby. We'll see." What happens next on the third floor will turn their whole world upside down, reveal a fortune hidden in the last place anyone would ever look, and put a target on Keisha's back big enough to see from space. You're not ready? Hit that like button, share this with somebody who needs hope today, and subscribe because tomorrow we go in all the way in. The staircase ended at the pyramid's peak, one single door made of solid black glass, no handle, no keyhole, just a faint gold symbol etched in the center, an eye inside a pyramid. Keisha tried every brass key. Nothing. That's strange, she muttered. Malik pressed his whole face against the cool glass. I don't hear nothing. Keisha ran her hands along the seams, feeling for anything, a switch, a latch, a lie. Nothing. She stepped back. The four walls up here slanted in tight, making the air feel charged, like before lightning. Something was off. The gold eye symbol was glowing now, soft but steady. Keisha placed her palm flat over the symbol. It was warm. Mommy, what you doing? I'm not sure, baby. She pressed harder. Somewhere deep inside the pyramid, something ancient clicked. The wall panel spun open smooth as silk, no creak, no groan, just a soft hiss like the pyramid itself was exhaling after 70 years. Keisha's heart slammed against her ribs. She clicked on the maglite and aimed the beam into the black. A secret staircase, narrow as a coffin, spiraled straight up the core of the pyramid like the inside of a seashell. You'll stay right. No, Aliyah cut her off, chin poked out just like Keisha's when she was 8 and stubborn. We coming with you. Keisha almost argued, but the look in her daughter's eyes stopped her cold. Same fire she saw in the mirror every morning when she told herself one more shift, one more day. Fine. But you hold my hand and you do not let go. They climbed. 20 steep steps carved into obsidian stone, walls so close Keisha's shoulders brushed both sides. Malik clung to her back like a little monkey, quiet for once. Then the passage opened into the apex chamber, right under the crystal cap. Sunlight, real golden sunlight, punched through the storm clouds for the first time all day, pouring down in thick beams that lit up dust motes like glitter. The room was bathed in warm, sacred light. In the middle of the room, one antique mahogany desk, one chair, and 3 things laid out like offerings. A thick leather journal. A carved rosewood box. A long black metal tube sealed with wax. Keisha's legs carried her forward like they already knew. She opened the journal first. Adelaide's handwriting danced across the pages, fierce and neat even at 102. To the blood that comes after me. I pray you are strong enough to carry what I carried. I fled Martinique in 1939 with nothing but the clothes on my back and the trust of people who would never see tomorrow. Jewish families, resistance fighters, artists, scholars, they pressed their lives into my young hands. Paintings rolled tight, diamonds sewn into hems, Torah scrolls hidden in false-bottom suitcases. They said, Adelaide, you are dark enough to move through the night. Take these. Survive. Remember us. I survived. They did not. When the war ended and I went looking for heirs, I found only silence. Names scratched off the earth like they never existed. So I brought their memory here. I built this pyramid in the Montana wilderness so no one would ever think to look, and I buried their legacy inside its bones. Aliyah's small voice broke the quiet. Mommy, open the pretty box. Keisha lifted the lid with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. Inside, wrapped in faded indigo silk, lay a single sheet of heavy paper. She unwrapped it slow, afraid it would crumble. The second she saw the wild, thick strokes of yellow and green, the swirling sky that looked like it was moving, tears blurred her vision. Sunflowers. Vincent van Gogh's Sunflowers, pencil and ink, signed in the corner with that famous hurried Vincent. Her knees buckled. She dropped into the chair hard enough to rattle the desk. Lord Jesus, she whispered. Then she noticed them, hairline seams running up every wall panel, tiny keyholes disguised as hieroglyphs, pressure plates hidden in the carved lotuses. This wasn't a room. This was the vault. And if the journal was telling the truth. She cracked the metal tube. A long parchment unrolled across the desk, 2 pages of Adelaide's perfect handwriting. Inventory of souls. Monet, Water Lily Study, 1917, concealed behind south panel, master bedroom. Fabergé constellation, unfinished, 1917, inside central column, foyer floor. Rembrandt, self-portrait etching, 1648, east wall, library. Cleopatra's gold and lapis collar, 47 BC, under apex crystal, this room. Da Vinci notebook pages, 3, north wall safe, kitchen. Basquiat canvas, untitled, 1984, hidden attic compartment. The list kept going. Picasso. Klimt. Ancient Egyptian relics. Diamonds the size of quail eggs. Priceless Torah scrolls wrapped in oilskin. At the very bottom, in bold, shaking script. Current appraised value as of 2024, $250 million US. These treasures never belong to me. They belong to ghosts who still whisper in my dreams. I am tired. The duty now passes to you, blood of my blood. Guard them. Or free them. But choose quickly, because once the world learns they exist, the wolves will come. Keisha looked at her babies, Aliyah clutching that Van Gogh like it was a coloring page, Malik staring up at the crystal ceiling like he could see heaven. $250 million in stolen starlight hidden inside a pyramid built by a black woman who outran Nazis and never told a soul. This wasn't an inheritance. This was a crown made of fire. And somebody, somewhere, was already coming to take it. Whoever finds this, please finish what I started and could not. Return what still has a home to go to. Protect what has no home left. And forgive a frightened girl who became an old woman still running from shadows. Keisha's eyes burned. She blinked hard, but the tears came anyway, sliding hot down her cold cheeks. $250 million. The number felt fake, like somebody else's lottery ticket. But the Van Gogh sunflower sketch trembling in her hands was real. The Fabergé on that list was real. Cleopatra's collar was real. All of it hidden inside a pyramid built by a black woman who'd smuggled hope across oceans and then buried it in Montana snow because the world wasn't safe yet. Aliyah tilted her head at the drawing. Mommy, it's so pretty. Did Miss Adelaide paint it? No, baby. A man named Vincent did, a long, long time ago, when people were hurting real bad. Can we keep it forever? Keisha wrapped it back in the silk like it was made of spiderwebs. I don't know yet, Lily. This one's bigger than us. They climbed down the hidden spiral, the wall ceiling behind them with another soft sigh, like the pyramid was tucking its secrets back in for now. In the foyer, Keisha noticed the little onyx and gold pyramid on the table again. She picked it up, turned it over. Etched on the base, 1944, a Martinique to Lisbon to New York. That tiny thing had crossed the Atlantic in Adelaide's pocket while submarines hunted in the dark. It had been her guiding light, her talisman, the whole reason she built this place to look like a beacon in the wilderness. Keisha set it down gentle, like saying thank you. Outside, the storm had teeth now. Snow whipped sideways, already piling against the Suburban's tires. We gotta go, babies. Before this mountain locks us in. Aliyah grabbed her hand as they stepped into the blizzard. We coming back though, right? Keisha looked up at the pyramid one last time. Even in the grey-out, light still leaked from every seam, strong and steady, like it was daring the darkness to try it. Yeah, sweetheart. We coming back. This house been waiting on us. She locked the massive door, the click echoing across the clearing like a heartbeat. The drive down was pure hell. Visibility down to the hood ornament, tires sliding every 10 feet, Keisha praying in tongues she didn't even know she knew. Malik slept with his mouth open. Aliyah hummed church songs under her breath. By the time they hit the highway, Keisha's hands were claws from gripping the wheel. She pulled into the first gas station she saw, let the engine idle, heat blasting like summer. Phone came out. Fingers still shaking, she Googled the Van Gogh sketch she'd photographed upstairs. Results made her stomach drop. If authenticated, $15 to $25 million. One sheet of paper. And Adelaide's list had 42 items. 42. Keisha scrolled through the photos she'd snapped of the journal pages. Every treasure catalogued like a librarian from heaven, high-res photos, provenance notes, hiding spots mapped to the inch. Adelaide had built false panels, vacuum-sealed compartments, even a damn false floor under the foyer ank that dropped into a climate-controlled crypt. But the question burning a hole in Keisha's chest wouldn't let go. Miss Adelaide, if you wanted these things back with their people, why hide them for 70 damn years? Why build a pyramid in the middle of nowhere and die with the keys instead of opening the door? She stared at the glowing pyramid in the photos, light bleeding from every edge. Then it hit her like a brick. Adelaide never stopped looking. Every year she updated the list, added new appraisals, crossed off names when she found a survivor or a grandchild. But the heirs were gone. Museums wouldn't touch unprovenance to pieces. Governments wanted them for taxes or politics. Private collectors? They'd disappear the art again, this time forever. So Adelaide built a fortress. A black woman in 1950s America built the one place on earth nobody would think to look, and she waited. Waited for blood strong enough to finish what she started. Keisha closed the phone, looked in the rear view at her sleeping babies. The weight settled on her shoulders like a mantle. $250 million in ghosts was now riding shotgun. And somewhere out there, people who'd been hunting these treasures for decades were about to realize the pyramid had finally opened its eye. Keisha kept reading, voice barely above a whisper, the journal shaking in her hands. I tried, Adelaide wrote. In 1949 I wrote letters to every museum from Paris to New York. I sent photographs, descriptions, serial numbers. A young black woman with a French accent and no papers, nobody believed me. They called me a liar. Some called me a fence for stolen goods. The FBI knocked on my door twice. I burned the first set of letters I received back, the ones accusing me of profiteering off tragedy. After that, I went quiet. I decided the world was not ready. So I waited. I preserved. I built this pyramid so it would outlast empires if it had to. I prayed one day my blood would be brave enough to open the door when the time was right. I pray that blood is you, Keisha Thompson. Keisha closed the journal. The apartment was cold, the radiator had given up hours ago. Aliyah and Malik were asleep on the pullout, tangled in blankets. Strong enough? She almost laughed. She was $1 and a dream away from homeless, working 2 jobs white folks swore didn't exist anymore, raising 2 kids on food stamps and prayers. Her bank account said $187.43. The Suburban was still borrowed. Strong wasn't the word people used for women like her. Survivor, maybe. Stubborn, definitely. But walking away? Letting some historical society bulldoze the pyramid or auction everything off to the highest hedge fund bidder. Letting Cleopatra's collar end up on some rapper's neck while Holocaust heirs never even knew it survived. Hell. No. Keisha opened her cracked laptop, the one held together by hope and clear nail polish, and started digging Holocaust restitution laws, Interpol's stolen art database, provenance research, the Commission for Looted Art in Europe, the World Jewish Restitution Organization. It was a maze. But mazes had exits. She found the contact page for the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's Looted Art and Cultural Property Initiative. She stared at the blank form for a solid hour, cursor blinking like a heartbeat. Once she hit send, life as she knew it was over. Reporters. Governments. Billionaires who collect pain for sport. Maybe even danger, people had killed for less than $250 million in lost masters. But Miss Adelaide had run through Nazi-occupied Europe with a suitcase full of hope and never dropped it. Keisha started typing. My name is Keisha Thompson. I just inherited a property in the Bitterroot Mountains from my great-aunt Adelaide Du Bois past February this year. Inside the structure I found an undocumented collection, paintings, artifacts, jewels, hidden since World War II. My aunt's journal says most pieces were entrusted to her by Jewish families and resistance members trying to survive the Holocaust. I have photographs, inventory lists, and detailed provenance notes in her handwriting. I want to do this the right way, return what can go home and protect what can't. I need help yesterday. Please call me anytime. She hit send at 3:17 a.m. Didn't sleep after that. 48 hours later, 6:02 a.m., kid still knocked out, her phone buzzed so hard it fell off the table. Unknown number. Washington, D.C. area code. Keisha snatched it up. Hello? Ms. Thompson? This is Dr. Rachel Hoffman, Director of the Looted Art Recovery Program at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. I need you to tell me everything, right now. The collection you described, do you have photographs? Documentation? Anything we can verify immediately. Keisha's voice cracked as she read the words out loud to the empty apartment. I have my great-aunt's handwritten journal, every hiding spot, every description, every date, every name she could remember. I held a Vincent van Gogh sunflower sketch in my own 2 hands. It's real. Dead silence on the line. Then, Ms. Thompson, if even 10% of this is authentic, you're sitting on the biggest undocumented Holocaust-era recovery since the Monuments Men. But listen to me carefully. The second this leaks, your life, your children's lives, everything changes. Federal agencies, foreign governments, private collectors with unlimited money and zero morals, they will all come knocking. Some will come with smiles. Some won't knock at all. Are you ready for that? Keisha looked at the cracked bedroom door where Aliyah and Malik were still sleeping, mouths open, peaceful like the world hadn't just tilted. I don't know if I'm ready, she said, voice steady even though her knees weren't. But Miss Adelaide ran through Nazi checkpoints with this stuff sewn in her clothes. The least I can do is finish the race. A sharp inhale on the other end. Then I'm on the next flight to Missoula. Do not speak to anyone else. Do not move a single piece. And Keisha? Keep your doors locked. Collections like this don't just attract historians. The call ended. Keisha stared at the phone like it might bite her, then dialed her night shift supervisor at the chicken plant. I'm sorry, Ms. Linda. I gotta quit. Effective right now. Linda cussed her out for 2 minutes straight, then sighed and said, Girl, whatever it is, sounds like you finally caught a break. Just know you always got a job here if it falls through. Keisha thanked her, hung up, and whispered to the quiet kitchen, it ain't falling through. Next morning she dropped the kids at school, told the principal it was a family emergency, 2 weeks minimum, and pointed the borrowed Suburban back up the mountain. Daylight made the drive feel shorter, but the pyramid rising out of the snow still stole her breath every time. Black glass catching the sun like obsidian on fire, gold light bleeding from every seam. She let herself in, locked the door behind her, and spoke out loud to the empty house. I'm back, Miss Adelaide. Let's finish your story. Straight to the apex chamber. Journal still sitting there like it had been holding its breath. This time Keisha read every page, slow, tracing her great-aunt's handwriting with her finger. Adelaide Du Bois, born 1923 in Fort-de-France, Martinique, to a schoolteacher father and a midwife mother. Moved to Paris at age 12 when her daddy got a better post. By 1940 she was 17, dark-skinned, fluent in Nazi-occupied Paris, fluent in French, Creole, and the German she learned from her daddy's old books. She wrote, They called us the invisible. A black girl could walk past Gestapo checkpoints carrying a suitcase and they barely looked twice. So the family started coming to me. The Goldsteins in the Marais pressed a rolled money into my arms the night before their raffle. The Rosenthal sisters sewed diamonds into the hem of my coat and made me promise to find their little brother in England. Madame Levi gave me 3 Da Vinci notebook pages and said, if we don't make it, let the world at least remember we were here. I carried Torah scrolls in market baskets. I hid Faberge eggs in sacks of rice. I memorized every name, every face, every tear on my shoulder. After liberation I went back to every address. Empty apartments. Yellow stars still painted on the doors that would never open again. Red Cross lists with the same word over and over, deport. The Rosenthal's little brother? Died at Auschwitz, age 8. The Goldsteins, the Levi, the Kaufmans, the Weiss family, all gone. Whole bloodlines turned to smoke. So I stopped knocking on doors that weren't there anymore. I brought their light to America, then to this mountain, and I built a pyramid so the world would have to look up to find it. Keisha's tears hit the page, smudging the ink that was already 80 years old. She turned to the next entry, handwriting shakier now. I am old. The children I could not find have grandchildren who might still be alive. The world has new eyes now, databases, laws, people who care. If you are reading this, you are my blood. You are the generation I waited for. Do not let their names die with me. At the very back of the journal, tucked in a pocket Keisha hadn't noticed before, was one final photograph, a young black woman in a 1943 beret, standing in front of the Arc de Triomphe, arms full of rolled canvases, smiling like she already knew she was going to win. On the back, in faded ink. For whoever comes next. Run faster than I did. Love. Adelaide Dubois, age 20, still believing. Keisha pressed the photo to her chest. Then she pulled out her phone and took pictures of every single page. Because the wolves were already on the mountain. She could feel them. The Steinmetz family with the Rembrandt etchings, gone. The Rosenthals, the Cohens, the Levis, the Kaufmans, the Weiss family, all gone. Rooms full of beauty and nobody left to hand it back to. I carried their names in my mouth for 70 years like communion wafers that never dissolved. Keisha couldn't read anymore, the tears were falling too fast. She closed the journal for a second, pressed it to her chest like it was Adelaide herself. Every name on that list was a whole bloodline turned to smoke. Every painting, every diamond, every Torah scroll was the last scream of a family that trusted a young black girl to outrun the devil. Now the devil's bill had come due, and it was addressed to Keisha Thompson. She stood up, wiped her face with the sleeve of her hoodie, and started hunting. First stop, the starry midnight blue bedroom on the second level, the one Aliyah had already claimed in her heart. Keisha ran her palms along the walls the way Adelaide's notes said. East side, 3 feet from the window, press firm. Click. A seamless panel popped inward like it was relieved to finally breathe. Inside the shallow recess hung 3 canvases on silk cords. She lifted the first one out like it was a sleeping baby. Water lilies floating on a purple-blue pond, light dancing so real you could almost hear the dragonflies. Back of the stretcher, faded ink. Monet, Etude pour Nymphéas, 1914. Famille Goldstein, Paris 16e. Keisha's knees gave out. She sank to the carpet. The second painting was smaller, darker, Rembrandt, no question. An old woman in a white cap, eyes that had seen too much. On the back, Steinmetz famille, Remy's à Adelaide Dubois, Juillet 1942. The third was pure Picasso, jagged and tender at the same time, a woman's face broken into 100 soft pieces. Propriété Rosenthal, Paris. Keisha sat right there on the floor surrounded by ghosts worth tens of millions and sobbed, not for the money, but because somebody had written those Jewish names on the back in 1942 and Adelaide had kept her word when the whole world told her to forget. She pulled it together, wiped her face again, and kept moving. Library bookshelf, third shelf up, spine titled Les Fleurs du Mal, pulled forward and the whole unit swung out smooth. Behind it, vacuum-sealed cases of illuminated manuscripts, Torah scrolls wrapped in acid-free linen, pages so old they looked like butterfly wings. White bedroom, window seat, lift the cushion, pop the false bottom. Velvet jewel boxes. Diamonds big as nickels, emeralds like green fire, a sapphire brooch shaped like a star that threw blue constellations across the ceiling when the light hit it. Sitting room mirror, slightly crooked for a reason. Tilt it 3 degrees left. Another compartment. Degas dancers mid-pirouette, Renoir girls with parasols, Toulouse-Lautrec cabaret scene scratched quick and alive on thick paper. Every hiding place built into the pyramid's natural curves, double walls, false beams, compartments no building inspector would ever think to measure twice. By noon Keisha had opened and documented 21 secret spaces. Phone full of photos, notes in her shaky handwriting matching Adelaide's inventory word for word. 21. And according to the master list, there were still 37 more to go. Some behind the kitchen's false backsplash. Some under the ank in the foyer floor. One supposedly inside the crystal apex itself. Keisha stood in the golden light of the foyer, looked up at the pyramid soaring above her, and whispered to the house and to the woman who built it. "I see you now, Miss Adelaide. I see all of them." Outside, fresh snow had started falling again, soft and silent. Inside, the pyramid kept its secrets a little longer. But not for much longer. And there was one thing Adelaide kept mentioning in the journal that Keisha hadn't laid eyes on yet. She called it the Crown of Crowns. Keisha went back to the apex chamber, heart still pounding from everything she'd already seen, and stared at that solid black glass door with the glowing gold eye. No key on the ring had worked. She'd tried every single one twice. She tore the desk apart this time. Top drawer, yellowed letters, wartime ration cards, a pressed Edelweiss flower. Second drawer, photographs of smiling Jewish children who never came home. Bottom drawer, locked. Keisha's hands didn't even shake anymore. Fourth brass key, the big ornate one she'd never seen before, slid in like it was coming home. Inside, a small titanium case. Inside that, one heavy key made of black iron and gold, shaped like an ankh with a pyramid at the top. Keisha ran. Third floor landing. Key met lock. Turned like warm butter. The door swung inward on silent hinges. The room beyond wasn't a room. It was a temple. For sloping walls lined floor to ceiling with ebony and gold, every inch carved with hieroglyphs, ankhs, and Hebrew letters that somehow made perfect sense together. Glass-fronted niches glowed under soft hidden lights. Inside the niches sat wonders that made the paintings downstairs look like postcards. A solid gold death mask of a young pharaoh, eyes inlaid with lapis and obsidian. Nefertiti's personal scarab, big as a child's fist, carved from one piece of emerald. The Cleopatra collar, gold cobras and lapis lotus flowers, so bright it hurt to look at. A complete Torah scroll written in gold ink on indigo vellum, older than America. A Fabergé egg that wasn't on any museum list, the lost constellation egg, diamond stars still waiting for the Romanov baby who never came. Every single case had a small brass plaque. Entrusted to Adelaide Du Bois by Rabbi Avram Cohen, Lyon, 1943. From the Kaufmann Collection, Vienna, taken on Kristallnacht, recovered 1944. Property of the Bernard Museum, Cairo, smuggled out before Rummel reached the city. This wasn't just Adelaide's work. This was the combined hope of an entire underground railroad of heroes who used a black teenage girl as their safest courier because nobody ever suspected her. Keisha couldn't breathe. What happens next will put a price on Keisha's head big enough to buy countries, force her to choose between blood and billions, and show her exactly how far some people will go to bury history all over again. You're not ready? Hit that bell, share this with your prayer circle, and subscribe, because tomorrow the wolves walk in the front door. She spent the next hour photographing every artifact, every plaque, tears rolling silent while the camera clicked. It was 1:58 p.m. when she heard it. Engine. Deep growl, expensive tires on snow. Keisha flew to the nearest slit window. Black Escalade, government plate scrubbed off, rolling slow into the clearing like it owned the mountain. Two men climbed out of big, coats too nice for Montana, moving like special forces on vacation. One circled her borrowed Suburban, gloved hand on the hood checking how fresh the engine was. The other walked straight to the pyramid's front door like he already had a key. Keisha's blood turned to ice. Dr. Hoffman wasn't supposed to land until tomorrow. Nobody else on Earth was supposed to know this place existed. She snatched Adelaide's journal, shoved the black gold key into her bra, and ran downstairs on silent feet. Front door opened before she reached the foyer. Hello? Deep voice, Eastern European accent under perfect American English. Anybody home? Second voice, closer, check every level. She said the crown jewel is in the apex chamber. Keisha's heart stopped. She slipped into the starry bedroom, pressed her back to the wall beside the still-open Monet panel, and prayed the shadows were deep enough. Boots on the floating glass stairs. 2 sets. Moving fast. Place is built like a damn tomb, one muttered. That's the point, the other answered. Nobody was ever supposed to find it again. Keisha closed her eyes, gripped the journal like a shield, and started calculating how many steps it would take to get to the emergency exit Adelaide had sketched on page 187. Because the wolves weren't at the door anymore. They were inside. Just get the crown piece and get out. They were getting closer, boots heavy on the glass stairs. Keisha's eyes snapped to the window. Second floor, maybe 18 feet to the snowdrift piled against the pyramid's base. She could make it. Behind her, the bedroom door creaked. She didn't think. She shoved Adelaide's journal inside her hoodie, zipped it tight, and climbed onto the sill. Cold wind slapped her face. Hey! Stop right there. She jumped. Snow exploded around her, stealing her breath, pain shooting up her right leg like fire. Ankle twisted, maybe broken, but she was alive. Keisha scrambled up, limping hard, and ran. The Suburban sat 40 yards away, looking like freedom. Shouts behind her, then boots hitting snow. They were coming. She yanked the driver door, fell inside, keys already in her shaking hand. Engine roared to life just as the first man burst out the pyramid door, slipping on ice, cursing in what sounded like Russian. Keisha slammed it in reverse, tires spinning, snow flying. He lunged for the tailgate and missed by inches. She shifted to drive and floored it. The private road was a white-knuckled nightmare, curves, ice, pine branches whipping the windows like claws. Rearview mirror, Black Escalade right on her tail, eating the distance fast. Her ankle screamed every time she hit the brake, but she kept that pedal down. Phone buzzed, 2 bars. Signal. One hand on the wheel, she thumbed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Keisha Thompson. 2 men just broke into my property off Highway 12, mile marker 83. Black Escalade, no plates I could see, they chasing me right now. Stay on the line. Units are rolling. Can you make the highway? Trying. The Escalade rammed her bumper. The Suburban fishtailed hard, almost went off the cliff. Keisha yanked the wheel, corrected, heart in her throat. Another ram. Then she saw it, sunlight at the end of the trees. Highway. She shot out onto pavement, cut off a logging truck, horn blaring like Judgment Day. The Escalade followed but fell back quick when real traffic appeared. Witnesses. Cameras. They weren't that bold. Keisha drove 80 miles an hour until her hand stopped shaking enough to pull into the Conoco in Copper Falls. Sheriff's deputies screeched up 8 minutes later, lights painting the snow red and blue. She gave her statement, showed the fresh dent in the bumper shaped like an Escalade grill, gave them the journal photos, everything. They promised patrols, said they'd check the property. Keisha just nodded, knowing it was already too late. Whoever Sheik was, she knew the pyramid was open. That night, after Aliyah and Malik were finally asleep, Keisha sat at the kitchen table under the flickering light and let herself break. She cried for Miss Adelaide, who carried empires in her pockets and died alone. She cried for every name on the back of those paintings. She cried for her babies, now in the crosshairs of people who kill for less than 10 on that $250 million. When the tears ran dry, she opened the laptop and uploaded every photograph, hundreds of them, to 3 different encrypted drives. Then she turned to the last pages of the journal she hadn't dared read until now. Adelaide's handwriting, faint and trembling. I know they will come one day. The men who financed the looting never got their full share. They have children now, grandchildren, private museums with empty walls. They never stopped looking for what I took. If you are reading this after strangers have come, listen carefully. There is one final safeguard. Under the ankh in the foyer floor is a strong box. Inside is the complete provenance for every piece, plus a letter I wrote to the world. There is also a flash drive with every document scanned and a list of names, the ones who still hunt. If they come for you, do not fight alone. Release everything. Flood the world with the truth. The light always wins when it is no longer hidden. Be brave, my blood. The pyramid was never a tomb. It was a seed. Now make it grow. Keisha closed the journal, looked at the clock, 3:14 a.m., and started downloading the flash drive files she hadn't even known existed. Because tomorrow the story wasn't staying buried anymore. Tomorrow the whole world was about to find out what one black girl saved from the darkness, and what it cost to bring it back into the light. I've seen how men look at beauty when they think they can own it. I've watched collectors turn into wolves, dealers into devils, museums into fences wearing fancy titles. That's why I built the pyramid the way I did, not just to hide the treasures, but to keep them from people who only see dollar signs when they look at memory. Keisha turned the page with fingers that finally stopped shaking. The house is a lock, and only blood that understands the why can turn the key. I left the clues in the angles of the walls, in the ankhs carved where nobody would think to measure twice, in the way the light hits the apex at exactly 3:33 p.m. every solstice. The street value of everything inside is roughly $250 million. But street value is a lie told by people who never had to carry a Rembrandt through a checkpoint in their brassiere. These pieces are not assets. They are ancestors. They are proof that evil lost some battles after all. The final entry was dated January 23rd, 3 weeks before Adelaide crossed over. I am tired, child. My bones sound like dry branches when I walk. But I kept every promise I made in the dark. Now I hand you the torch. Trust the pyramid. Trust the blood singing in your veins. Martinique, Mississippi, Montana, it all beats the same drum. And remember, some things are worth more than staying alive. Some things are worth dying loud for. Keisha closed the journal and looked around her cramped apartment, the peeling linoleum, the eviction notice curled on the fridge like a wanted poster, the kids' little shoes lined up by the door. She'd thought she was inheriting shelter. Instead, she'd inherited a revolution. Her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. We know what you found, Ms. Thompson. $250 million is a lot to protect with food stamps and prayers. Call this number if you want your children to see their next birthday. The fear that had choked her on the mountain road was gone now. Something older, something Adelaide had carried across oceans, rose up in its place. Keisha deleted the text, blocked the number, and dialed Dr. Hoffman. They came, she said the second the call connected, voice calm like Sunday morning. Two men in a black Escalade. They knew about the crown jewel. They put hands on the pyramid. A sharp inhale on the other end. Are you and the children safe? For now. But they ain't gonna wait weeks or months. Then we don't give them weeks or months, Dr. Hoffman said, steel in her voice now. We go public. All of it. Tomorrow morning I'm on a plane with FBI art crime team and Interpol. We flood the world with the photos, the journal, the names on the backs of every painting. We make it impossible for anyone to disappear a single piece without the whole planet screaming. Keisha looked at Aliya's bedroom door, at Malik's little Spider-Man sneakers. How long? She asked. 48 hours and the pyramid becomes the most famous building on Earth. Keisha smiled for the first time all day. Good, she said. Miss Adelaide waited 80 years for the right kind of loud. She hung up, opened her laptop, and started typing the email that would light the match. Subject: What one black girl saved from the Holocaust. Attachment: 842 photographs, one journal, 42 names the world forgot. Some things are worth more than survival. Some things are worth the fight. And tomorrow, Keisha Thompson was about to remind the whole world what happens when you try to bury light. Some things are worth the fight. Keisha stayed up till the sky turned peach over Copper Falls, notebook pages full of bullet points in purple ink. Motion sensors plus cameras, already ordered on Amazon with next-day shipping. Armed off-duty deputies for the pyramid 24/7. Safe deposit box in Helena for the journal originals. Foundation name: the Adelaide Du Bois Memory Trust. Press conference scheduled for Monday. Let the whole world watch anybody try to touch it now. She wasn't running. Adelaide hadn't run for 70 years. Keisha damn sure wasn't starting. Thursday morning a spotless white Suburban pulled up outside the apartment, tires crunching salt and ice. Dr. Rachel Hoffman stepped out, 40-something, locks pulled back tight, boots that had seen real winters, eyes that looked like they'd stared down war criminals and won. Keisha met her on the porch, Aliya clinging to one leg, Malik to the other. Dr. Hoffman. Keisha offered her hand. Thank you for coming. Thank you for calling, Rachel said, shaking it firm. Most people would have sold one painting and disappeared. You called us instead. They sat at the kitchen table while the kids colored, Malik giving the doctor a very serious blue dinosaur. Keisha slid the journal, the notebooks, the phone across the formica like she was dealing cards. Rachel went still as she turned pages. When she got to the photograph of Cleopatra's collar glowing under the apex light, she actually whispered, "Sweet Mother of God." You believe me now? Keisha asked, half smiling. I believed you on the phone, Rachel said, pushing her glasses up. Now I'm terrified for you. This isn't just the biggest Holocaust recovery in 50 years. With the Egyptian pieces included, this is the biggest undocumented cultural repatriation in history. And girl, people kill for a lot less than 250 million. Keisha's jaw tightened. They already tried. Rachel nodded. Then we don't give them a second chance. By sunset the machine was in motion. Private security firm out of Bozeman rolled up with 3X Delta guys who looked like they ate nails for breakfast. A New York art restitution attorney landed in a private jet, tie still perfect despite the turbulence. 2 FBI agents from the art crime team took Keisha's statement again, this time with body cams rolling and a sketch artist turning her description of the Escalade men into wanted posters. A forensic photographer and 2 provenance experts were wheels up from D.C. by nightfall. And then the phone started blowing up. ABC, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, even some crypto bro on YouTube channels. Major art discovery in Montana. Black woman inherits pyramid containing possible Holocaust loot. Egyptian artifacts worth hundreds of millions. Somebody had talked. Didn't matter who. Keisha's name, her children's names, the pyramid's GPS coordinates, everything was already trending worldwide. That night Keisha sat on the edge of Aaliyah's bed, watching her baby sleep, .38 on the nightstand for the first time in years. A dark sedan crawled past the apartment for the fourth time, slow, headlights off. Keisha kissed Aaliyah's forehead, whispered the same thing Adelaide had written in the journal. The light always wins when it is no longer hidden. She walked to the living room, opened her laptop, and hit go live on every platform she had. The screen filled with her face, tired but unafraid, pyramid glowing gold behind her on the thumbnail. "My name is Keisha Thompson," she said to 500,000 live viewers and climbing. And this is the story of how one black woman from Martinique saved the world's forgotten treasures from the Nazis, and how her great-niece ain't letting nobody steal them back. She held up the journal. "Come for it if you want it. The whole world is watching now." The fight wasn't coming. It was already here. And Keisha Thompson was ready. Keisha didn't flinch when the dark sedan crawled past again, headlights off like a shark in deep water. She snapped a photo of the plate through the blinds, sent it straight to the group chat she'd made with Dr. Hoffman and the FBI agent, then called Copper Falls PD. They came, circled the block, found nothing but cold air, promised extra drive-bys. Keisha already knew that was like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Next morning an envelope was waiting under her apartment door. Thick cream stock, block letters, Keisha Thompson. Inside, one sheet. The Adelaide Du Bois collection does not belong in public hands. Certain patrons appreciate its true significance and are prepared to pay market value, no questions, no delays. Accept $50 million wired today and disappear comfortably. Refuse, and you will receive exactly what you deserve, nothing. 48 hours. No signature. Just the faint smell of expensive cologne. Keisha photographed it front and back, sent it to the chat, then walked it straight to the FBI agents camped in her living room. They bagged it, dusted it, frowned the same frown cops always give when they know words ain't enough for an arrest. "You should think about protective custody," the older agent said. "At least until we lock the site down." Keisha looked at Malik asleep on the couch with his thumb in his mouth, Aaliyah braiding a Barbie's hair like the world wasn't on fire. Protective custody don't pay rent, don't pay for Malik's inhaler, don't let Aaliyah finish third grade with her friends. "I ain't running the dot." Dr. Hoffman touched her shoulder. "Then we don't run. We shine stadium lights on this thing so nobody can touch it in the dark." That afternoon, while the security team turned the pyramid into a small fortress, motion beams, drones, 2 ex-Marines with rifles who looked like they missed war, Keisha drove back up the mountain alone. She needed to talk to Miss Adelaide one more time. The pyramid welcomed her with that same golden hush, light pouring down the 4 walls like honey. She stood under the apex, looked straight up at the crystal cap, and spoke out loud. "Miss Adelaide, I'm scared. But I ain't leaving you again." Her eyes drifted to a tiny brass plaque she swore hadn't been there before, tucked behind the coat hooks by the door. Built 1953 by Adelaide Du Bois. For those who trusted a black girl with their tomorrows. So their children's children could have yesterday's back. Keisha's throat closed. Return home. That's what this was always meant to become, a bus station, not a grave. Her phone buzzed. Unknown. We're watching. Make the right choice. Something snapped loose in her chest, something fierce and free. She typed back. The right choice was made in 1942 when a teenager said yes to strangers who had nothing left but hope. I'm just finishing her sentence. Watch all you want. The world about to watch harder. Sent. 30 seconds later the phone rang, unknown. She answered on speaker, voice like steel wrapped in Sunday velvet. Miss Thompson, the man said, cultured, almost bored. You're being emotional. Nah, sir. I'm being righteous. There's a difference. A soft chuckle. 50 million is a lot to a woman in your circumstances. My circumstances raised 2 babies on minimum wage and still taught Rem to read. My circumstances outran your granddad's heroes with a Rembrandt in my brassiere. You offering me money to betray dead people who trusted my blood? Boy, bye. You have no idea who you're. I know exactly who I'm talking to. Keisha cut him off. A man who thinks history is something you can buy at auction. These pieces go into exactly where they belong, back to the Goldsteins, the Rosenthals, the Cohens, the museums, the descendants, the light. Every single one. And when the last one is home, I'm gonna throw the biggest second-line parade Montana ever seen. Silent on the line. Then, quiet, you just signed your own. Keisha hung up, heart hammering, hand steady. She looked up at the pyramid glowing around her. Your move, Miss Adelaide, she whispered. The house answered with a shaft of sunlight that hit the ank in the floor and lit the whole foyer up like heaven itself had walked in. Keisha smiled, tears finally falling. Thought you'd like that one, auntie. The fight was on. And this time, the whole world was invited. Keisha's blood turned to fire the second the man said children. Don't you ever put my baby's names in your mouth again, she hissed, voice low enough to cut glass. Then be reasonable, Ms. Thompson. 24 hours. After that we stop asking nicely. The line went dead. Keisha stood in the pyramid's golden foyer shaking so hard the phone slipped from her hand and clattered on the marble ank. She called Dr. Hoffman. They threatened Malik and Aliyah by name. Silence. Then, pack one bag. Now. I'm sending a detail. You're off the grid tonight. Keisha wanted to fight, wanted to plant her feet and dare them to come. But she saw Aliyah's little braids, Malik's inhaler on the counter, and she knew. By dusk they were in a nondescript hotel 40 miles away, paid for by the museum. 2 armed guards outside the door, another in the parking lot. Schoolwork already emailed for Aliyah. Malik thought it was an adventure, until he asked why Mr. Tony with a big gun was sleeping in the hallway. That night, after the kids finally passed out, Keisha opened the journal again under the weak hotel lamp. She'd read it front to back a dozen times, but tonight her eye snagged on a page she'd skimmed before. A heading in Adelaide's later, shakier handwriting. Still searching, updated 2018 to 2023. Below it, names, addresses, phone numbers, emails. Some crossed out. Some circled in fresh blue ink. Sarah Goldberg, now Sarah Ben-David, Tel Aviv. Contacted 2009. Wants parents' money donated to Yad Vashem. Let the world see what love survived. Rosenthal airs Miami and Paris. Split on Picasso. Half want sale, proceeds to anti-hate charities. Half want it in the Louvre with plaque. Cohen family, Cleopatra collar, descendants in Cairo and Brooklyn. Bring it home to Egypt or let the British Museum choke on it, either way, not in private hands. Kaufman Torah returned quietly 1998, now in synagogue in Haifa. Adelaide had never stopped. Even in her 90s, she'd been on the phone, writing letters, tracing bloodlines across continents. She'd already asked every family what justice looked like to them. All that was left was for Keisha to open the door and hand it over. The next morning Dr. Hoffman walked in with 2 coffees and a plan. We're done hiding, she said. Press conference tomorrow, 2 p.m., Helena Federal Courthouse steps. You and me, the Attorney General's office, live on every major network. We lay out Adelaide's entire story, 1942 to 2025. We show the journal, the photos, the names on the backs of the paintings. We announce the Adelaide Du Bois Memory Trust and that every single piece is going exactly where its rightful owners or their descendants say it goes. Kisha felt something loosen in her chest for the first time in days. Once the world knows, Dr. Hoffman continued, those collectors can't buy it, can't steal it, can't bury it. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Kisha looked at her sleeping babies, then at the journal. Miss Adelaide waited 80 years for this press conference, she said. Let's make sure it's loud enough to wake the dead. Tomorrow, Keisha Thompson, tired, broke, terrified, and proud as hell, was about to stand on those courthouse steps and finish what a 17-year-old girl started in Nazi-occupied Paris. The pyramid wasn't a hiding place anymore. It was a megaphone. And Keisha was ready to shout. Then make it clear you ain't sailin' a one damn brushstroke. You ain't keeping it. You returnin' what the devil stole and Adelaide carried across an ocean on her back. What if they still come for us? Keisha asked, voice low so the kids wouldn't hear. Dr. Hoffman met her eyes. They might. But the FBI, Interpol, and 6 million people on TikTok will be watching every move. Light's a hard thing to kill in once it's on. Friday 1 p.m., steps of the federal courthouse in Helena. Keisha stood tall in the cold Montana sun, boots planted like roots, Aliyah and Malik safe in another room with 2 armed aunties from the security team. Dr. Hoffman flanked her left, the U.S. attorney on her right. Cameras from every major network pointed like artillery. Keisha leaned into the microphones. My name is Keisha Thompson. 3 weeks ago I inherited a pyramid-shaped cabin from my great-aunt Adelaide Du Bois, who left this world in February at 102 years old. What I found inside wasn't just a house. It was a promise kept for 80 years. She told them everything. How a teenage black girl from Martinique walked the streets of Nazi-occupied Paris with monnaies rolled in her coat and diamonds sewn in her hem. How Jewish families, resistance fighters, and Egyptian museum curators pressed their entire worlds into her young hands and said, if we don't make it, remember us. How Adelaide built a pyramid in the Montana wilderness so nobody would ever think to look, and guarded those memories alone for 7 decades. Inside those black glass walls are paintings by Monet, Picasso, Rembrandt, Basquiat, ancient Egyptian gold that belonged to queens, Torah scrolls written in gold ink, a Fabergé the Romanovs never got to finish. Appraised value, $250 million. Real value, priceless. Because every piece has a name on the back written in 1942, and most of those names were turned to smoke. The crowd went dead quiet. I've been threatened, Keisha said, voice ringing clear across the steps. Followed. Told to sell to rich men who want to hang other people's pain in their basement so they can feel powerful. But Miss Adelaide Du Bois didn't outrun the Gestapo for me to sell her promise at a discount. Every single treasure is going home, back to the Goldsteins, the Cohens, the Rosenthals, the Kaufmans, to museums, to synagogues, to Cairo, to wherever its people say it belongs. Not 1 red cent for me. This ain't about getting paid. This is about getting even with history. Cameras flashed like lightning. By sundown the story was global. Adelaide Du Bois trended in 17 countries. The pyramid silhouette was on every screen from BBC to BET. Keisha's inbox exploded, thousands of messages. Hate. Love. Offers. Threats. But one email cut straight through the noise. Subject, my grandmother gave a black girl our Rembrandt in 1942. Ms. Thompson. My name is Miriam Steinmetz Weiss. I am 87 years old. My grandmother Hannah Steinmetz owned an art shop on Rue des Rosiers. She told us before she was taken that she gave a young black courier 3 Rembrandt drawings and made her swear to find us if we survived. We survived. We've been looking for 73 years. Did Miss Du Bois keep her promise? Keisha's hand shook so hard she could barely type. Mrs. Weiss. She kept it. All 3 drawings are safe. I'm crying as I write this. Let's bring your grandmother's drawings home. Over the next week the emails became a flood. Descendants from Brooklyn to Haifa to Sao Paulo. A rabbi in Atlanta who needed his synagogue's Torah scroll for his grandson's bar mitzvah. An Egyptian archaeologist's granddaughter begging for Nefertiti's scarab to come back to the Nile. Keisha and Dr. Hoffman worked 18-hour days matching pieces to people, filing claims, laughing and crying in the same breath. Not everybody was happy. 2 nights after the press conference, somebody scaled the pyramid's security fence and spray-painted whore and thief in red across the black glass. Keisha drove up at dawn, stood in the snow staring at the hate dripping down the walls, and felt something snap loose inside her chest. Rage, yes, but bigger. She turned to Dr. Hoffman. They can't win. They won't, Rachel said. We just made their darkness impossible to hide in. That same week the FBI kicked in doors in Miami, Geneva, and London. One of the Escalade men sang the second he saw handcuffs. Turned out that she who'd been giving orders was the granddaughter of a Nazi art dealer still trying to finish Grandpa's shopping list. By the end of the month the first piece went home, the Monet water lilies, wrapped in acid-free paper, flown to Yad Vashem with Sarah Ben-David's name on the plaque that read, "In memory of my parents Isaac and Miriam Goldberg." Returned by Adelaide Du Bois and her great-niece Keisha Thompson. Because some promises outlive empires. Keisha stood in the now half-empty pyramid, walls still glowing even with the holes where treasures used to hide, and whispered to the house. "We did it, Auntie. They're going home." The pyramid answered with a shaft of winter sunlight that hit the ank in the floor and lit the whole foyer gold. Keisha smiled through tears. One black girl's promise, kept by another. And the world finally got to see the light. The threats kept coming, just quieter now. Burner phones at 3 a.m. breathing heavy. A different black sedan every day outside Aliyah's school pickup line. Keisha stopped sleeping, started keeping the .38 on the nightstand and a baseball bat by the door. Then came Benjamin Ross. 87 years old, number tattoo faded but still proud on his forearm, eyes sharp as the day he walked out of Auschwitz, the only one left with his last name. He found her through Dr. Hoffman, showed up at the hotel with a box of Krispy Kreme and a smile that had survived hell. Miss Du Bois wasn't alone, he told Keisha over coffee that tasted like hope. There was a whole network. Black porters on trains, nuns in convents, Muslim families in Marseille, teenage girls like your aunt who looked too harmless to search. We called ourselves the Lantern Bearers. We never knew each other's real names, never knew where the pieces went. Safer that way. But we heard whispers about a sister who built a pyramid in the American wilderness. We knew she was one of us. Keisha's tears fell straight into her coffee. She died thinking she carried it by herself. Benjamin took her hand, old bones, young fire. She carried it with all of us. And now you carry it with all of us. You are not alone, baby girl. Not anymore. The lantern bearers weren't dead. They just got old, rich, and patient. Within a week the game changed. Lawyers who'd been chasing Nazi gold since 1946 filed papers in 4 languages. A former Mossad agent now ran the best private security firm in North America and put the pyramid on lockdown like it was Fort Knox. A billionaire survivor's grandson wired the Adelaide Du Bois Memory Trust $10 million for expenses and told Keisha to keep the change. The collectors who'd been sending threats suddenly had bigger problems: Interpol red notices, frozen bank accounts, dawn raids in Zurich and Palm Beach. The threats didn't stop, they just got polite. Then they stopped. Piece by piece, the pyramid gave up its ghosts. The Monet water lilies flew first class to Tel Aviv, plaque reading, Returned by Adelaide Du Bois and Keisha Thompson. Because Some Light Refuses to Die. The 3 Rembrandt drawings went home to Miriam Steinmetz Weiss in Miami. She kissed each one like they were her grandmother's cheeks. Cleopatra's Collar, after a year of negotiations and one very tense meeting in Cairo, went on permanent display in the Grand Egyptian Museum with a second, smaller plaque nobody asked for but Keisha insisted on. Protected 1942 to 2025 by a black girl who outran empires. The pieces with no living heirs were sold to legitimate museums only. Proceeds split between survivor funds and a college scholarship for kids from Copper Falls who never thought they'd leave Montana. Late April, Keisha stood alone in the half-empty pyramid, walls full of clean rectangles where masterpieces used to hide. The house felt lighter. Like it had been pregnant for 70 years and finally got to breathe. Dr. Hoffman stood beside her, boots crunching on bubble wrap. "You did it." "We did it," Keisha corrected. "All of us. The living and the ones who didn't make it. What you can do with this big old triangle now?" Keisha looked up at the crystal apex blazing with spring sun. "Move in." "Me, Aliyah, Malik. Turn the apex chamber into a library. The starry bedroom stays Aliyah's. Malik already claimed the kitchen for his toy trucks. Gonna paint the foyer gold, hang pictures of Miss Adelaide and every family we gave something back to. This house was built to hide light. Now it's gonna live in it." Dr. Hoffman smiled. "And the money from the no-air pieces?" "Could be 8 figures." Keisha laughed, the sound echoing off obsidian walls like church bells. "Enough to fix the roof, pay for braces, send these babies to any college they want, and start a little fund so no kid in Copper Falls ever has to choose between lights and groceries again. That's plenty." She walked to the front door, ran her hand over the brass plaque that had always been there, just waiting for this moment. Built 1953 by Adelaide Du Bois. For every name the world tried to erase. So their children's children could say them out loud again. Keisha whispered to the house, to the woman who built it, to every ghost finally going home. "We finished it, Auntie. Your light's free now." The pyramid caught the afternoon sun and blazed like a beacon across the Montana sky. One struggling black mom, one lantern-bearing girl from long ago, and a whole network of people who never forgot. Sometimes the promise kept is the most powerful inheritance of all.